Dopamine is not happiness. Well, dopamine is not happiness. That has been a myth that has gone around for too long. I know a lot of us have heard of dopamine before. Some of us have heard that dopamine makes you feel good. Some of us have heard that dopamine, you just associate dopamine with just illegal activities, and that is naturally what it is. So I just want to try and break it down to more or less like enlighten everyone on what dopamine actually is and give everyone the chance to understand themselves more. Because I feel if everyone can understand themselves more, you end up making positive decisions because you're able to understand the causes and effect of everything you do. So simply put, dopamine is not happiness. Well, dopamine is not happiness. That has been a myth that has gone around for too long. Dopamine is where you feel happy. No. That's not dopamine. Dopamine is more or less like anticipation, motivation, something that keeps you going, something that gives you the strength to keep on moving, keep on doing things, keep on trying things, keep on putting in effort. That is dopamine. The act of wanting something, the act of craving for something, desiring something is caused by dopamine. So I think I'll just try and break it down more. Let me try and explain what dopamine actually does in our body. So dopamine is motivation molecule. I use the word motivation because for everything we do in life, we need to be motivated to do it. For everything as little as walking to as complex as building Fortune 500 companies, you need to have a motivation. Like, you need to be motivated to do something. You need to have something that is pushing you to do better. You get? Dopamine is what makes us move towards things. Dopamine is what gives us you just see yourself keep on putting that effort because there's something as is being secreted inside you naturally. You are being motivated to accomplish things, to carry out things, to complete things, to fulfill things. Dopamine is a building block of human existence. I'll just put it to you that way. Dopamine is a building block of human existence because so many things that have been innovated. Do you know how many times people fail? Do you know how many times scientists fail before they get something right? Like, some innovations failed over 100 times. What keeps them going? What keeps them to keep on trying is dopamine. Because when you fail 1, 2, 3 times, you might chicken out, but when your dopamine is secreted, even when you're failing, you still feel like there's something at the end of the tunnel. Let me try again. Let me give it another try. That's dopamine at work. And it's usually secreted in healthy quantities by our bodies. Based on our lifestyle, based on where we are in life. Even as the world is evolving in tech, AI, science and all of that is still going back to dopamine, because if those innovators are not motivated enough, you won't see them like insisting on continuously trying. Like, for example, now Elon Musk was the first person to do vertical landing of a space rocket. If the first time he tried it, even conceiving the idea alone to try it is still based on dopamine, because if you don't have a reasonable dopamine level, you won't see yourself pushing yourself to invest a lot of monies in R&D, to try and give it a try. You won't have the mindset to even give it a try because you're not motivated. But when you have a healthy level of dopamine in your body, you'll be motivated to achieve things that you think are positive. Not only positive, some people do negative things because of dopamine also too, but I don't encourage that, because if your actions are not going to yield any positive return to mankind as a whole or to yourself, then there are self-inflicting activities, the activities that don't have any positive impact. Back then when we were young, we had all those kind of cravings. I want to go out to meet Folake, I want to go and play with Ifeanyi, Ebele. Back then we had so many things we were craving that were positive, not negative. But now things have changed, and we see the younger ones now just glued to social media, and social media releases a huge spike of dopamine, because the issue with social media is that there's no resting period. Now, a child now, or let's say a person can see a notification, next thing you're in a haste to watch the video, you are in a haste to watch that skit. After you watch that skit, within a second or 2 seconds, another person's notification is dropping, you're going back there, you're overflooding your brain with high levels of dopamine from activities that are not productive. Do you get? If the videos you're watching are videos that will enlighten you or give you new insight into things you don't know that are positive, that is different. But most of the content on social media is just to entertain you. So if you're always receiving a huge spike of dopamine from activities that are not positive, like just watching comedy skits, laughing after you laugh, nothing has been added to your life. Next thing you do it again and again and again and again, you're rewiring your brain, you're training your brain that going out to talk to people is not as sweet as watching skits online. I think I will start trying to push it to this user to always be on social media, to always spending time just doom scrolling. His or her time just doom scrolling on social media. So like you're rewiring your brain, and that is bad because you're exposing yourself to something that gives you a high source of dopamine and is not productive. You get, it is not productive, and since it's not productive, you are on the losing end, because it's like saying you're telling yourself, I can get dopamine higher through this activity, and this activity in question is not an activity that is adding any value to you. So it is going to end up wasting your time, or it's going to end up making you have a lower dopamine after you finish consuming it, and to not be lower than normal. So your dopamine baseline reflects your daily activity, like I've said, and when you expose yourself to a higher than normal dopamine level for a while, your baseline increases. Let me explain that now. If your baseline is a 5/10, at this 5/10, you are happy with reading books, you are happy with keeping your environment clean, you are happy with budgeting, investing, strategizing, taking baby steps, the things that matter to you are on this level. If you now expose yourself to something that is higher than 5 for a while, your baseline will increase like a 7. Your baseline will no longer be a 5 again. That's how dopamine baseline works. So if your baseline is a 7 and you expose yourself to activities that stimulates you more, higher, like gives you a higher dopamine release regularly, you keep on doing the activity for a while, your baseline will increase to a 9/10. And the problem is, when your baseline increases from doing activities that are not sustainable, productive, regular things that you used to do before that used to make you feel good or used to make you feel okay will no longer make you feel good anymore. You will now feel depressed. Depression will not come in because those regular things are no longer nice. Food doesn't taste sweet anymore. Sometimes when you eat your favorite soup, it's like, I'm not even enjoying this. This is not nice. This is not this. This is not that. When you are reading a book, you will get bored. Your attention span will be so short. like all that will be coming to your mind is get that thing done. Get that, and that thing I'm referring to is that thing that gave you a 7 or gave you a 9. Go and do the activity. Go and do that. Your brain will be telling you, because your brain feels that will give you more dopamine release than what you are doing currently. And yeah, it will give you more dopamine release because that is what you exposed yourself to that was higher than what you've been exposing yourself to for a very long while. Yet, and it's actually dangerous because once you start feeling that way, you start seeing your regular activities as boring, not interesting, you have developed tolerance for a higher dopamine level. When you expose yourself to a high level of dopamine, after a while, you have something called dopamine crash, whereby everything will just go down way below your dopamine baseline. When you experience things that give you a higher than normal dopamine secretion regularly, not regularly, just for a while, your brain notices that and it increases your baseline. Then when you start doing normal things back, the dopamine crashes. You have a dopamine crash, and dopamine crash happens once you stop. It crashes low below your newly formed tolerance level, leading to your brain making you to do it again, which leads to addiction. So are you seeing how addiction comes? Addiction is not just like, you don't just get addicted by you wake up, you do one thing once, and no, it's something you've been doing for a while, or something that you've been exposing yourself to that gives you a high level of dopamine. As you're exposing yourself to that activity, you are increasing your dopamine baseline. And when you can't keep on doing that thing constantly, the dopamine will crash. When you try and do things you used to like normally, that are healthy things, you will not feel like you're doing anything sensible because your baseline has been increased and you now have tolerance for your new baseline. So you need to be careful what you expose yourself to. How addiction works, let me try and just summarize it. So when you partake in activities that have a tendency to release a higher than normal amount of dopamine that you usually are exposed to, your brain will take note of it. Like I said, it increases your dopamine baseline. And what happens in our brain is like, when you partake in that activity at first, your brain will note it to be like, whoa, this is a surge of dopamine, or more, this is a good source of dopamine. Wow, let's try and control the secretion of this dopamine. The first time, that activity that you did, if it is gambling or if it is watching X-rated videos, will give you a rush of dopamine you have not felt before. You get? Your brain will now tell itself to reduce the dopamine receptors in your brain. It's like saying, if you have, let me give an example now. If you have 5 dopamine receptors, it cannot be 5, there are millions, but let me just use 5 to kind of make you understand. If you have 5 dopamine receptors and you flood your brain with 50 dopamine like at once, is to feel excited, your brain will now want to reduce it to 4 so that the excitement will not be too much. The next time you do it again, it will not feel as exciting as the last time. So you have to now do more than necessary to get the same level of excitement. It's reduced to 3. That's what leads to, when you do something now, you feel so good, something negative, you feel so good. When you do that same thing, that same level of that thing the next time, it won't feel that good again because your dopamine receptors has reduced the number to a 4, a 3. It's not 5 dopamine receptors. I'm giving you an example, you get? So it reduces to a 4, a 3. And when it reduces to that lesser amount, it cannot, like, you need to pump in more to still get the same outcome that you were getting before. It's like saying narrowing the pathway. You need to pump in more for it to enter faster. You get? So as your dopamine receptors reduce in number due to overstimulation from negative vices, You have fewer receptors. That means you need to do more to get the same outcome. That's why we have to detox from it. We have to try and remove it from our system. We have to try and remove it from our lives entirely, if possible. When I'm saying dopamine detoxification, I'm referring to removing activities, artificial things you do that overstimulate your dopamine triggers. Things that overstimulate you, moving those dopamine triggers that once you sense those triggers, you end up wanting to do something that will overstimulate your body with dopamine again, or will give you a huge surge of dopamine into your body. And most of the time, those activities that I'm talking about are not positive activities, because those things are the things that gives us a higher than normal dopamine baseline. So we have to detoxify our dopamine baseline back to what our dopamine baseline used to be, that we could live with, we could survive with, we could be productive with, And the steps to detoxifying ourselves is, first of all, you need to identify the trigger. What's the thing that is triggering you? Same thing with habits. Identify the cue. But now for me to identify the trigger, what is that trigger that is pushing you? Once you sense that trigger, I need to do this, I need to do that. It might be a group of friends. For example, if you are unfortunate to be hooked on drugs. Okay, sorry I use the word unfortunate, but if you are hooked on hard drugs, you don't just start hard drugs, but most times a friend introduces you to hard drugs. So if there's a friend of yours that anytime he comes visiting, you want to go out to go and do one or two nonsense with him or her, you need to start cutting off those people. And when I'm saying cutting off those people, it's not cutting off in the sense that you say don't come today, tomorrow when they come, you entertain them, then no, God give me the grace, God give me the will. No, cut them off entirely. They should not be coming around you again, they should not be visiting you, you should not be even hanging out with them. Because when you're around them, you start craving XYZ. So they are a trigger that makes you to crave XYZ, and you shouldn't be around people that triggers you to do negative things, negative vices. So after you cut them off and remove them from your life, you have to make that decision. If you want to get better, you have to make difficult decisions. If you want to keep on managing a situation and keep on hoping for the best, it's up to you. So after you do that, you have to now replace them with low stimulating activities. There are some activities that you do, I won't call it low stimulating, because low stimulating means it doesn't stimulate you. I'll say naturally you have to replace them with what was your former baseline. When you were productive, there were times you were productive, there were times you were hardworking, there were times you were useful to yourself. There are things you used to do during that period. Those things you used to do during that period, replace that high stimulating stuff with those activities you used to do. It might be reading of books. It might be someone that loves reading books, but all of a sudden reading books felt boring and doing hard drugs starts feeling interesting, because doing hard drug has exposed your body to a very high surge of dopamine that your body was not exposed to before. So you need to be careful of who you call your friends, because it's mostly your friends that will expose you to negative vices like hard drugs, watching X-rated videos and stuff like that does not have much positive impact. Does never have any positive impact. Just gives you an experience that, you experience something and stuff like that. So after you replace them, then you wait for a while and you see that your baseline will reset back to default. Waiting for a while is not waiting for 30 minutes or waiting for one day. Rome was not built in one day. Your habits was not formed in one day. So you don't expect your dopamine level to detox in one day. It will take some days. Day 1 to 3, everything will feel boring. Life is so boring. This. When day 4 to day 7, like, wow, what is happening? I'm not myself. I need this, I need that. You start feeling like you cannot do without that. That is your dopamine. Your body seeking that high surge of dopamine that you've exposed yourself to from that negative activity. But after, like, let's say 15 days, a week upwards of you starving yourself of that negative vice that you've been doing and trying to just keep on doing the things you used to do naturally that were giving you a good level of dopamine release, that were productive, you see that with time, your body will start adjusting. It's not instantaneously, but it's with time. If you are dedicated to improving your life, if you are serious about getting better, things will get better for you with time. It's not instantaneously, you know. Let me now explain that there are ways you can hack your dopamine. When I say the word hack your dopamine, I mean there are ways you can. There are some things you can do that will give you a good rush of dopamine, and they are also healthy activities. You get? So you can initiate some healthy activities into your routine or into your lifestyle that will give you dopamine in a healthy way and to still keep you motivated. You still feel you feel good, yes, and you will not have any repercussion. You get? You will not have any repercussion in your life. So the greatest one that I know of, and I think for my side, I think number one should be exercising. Exercising gives you a good natural surge of dopamine. You know, when you exercise, you get a surge of dopamine into your system, and it's not with any repercussion. You know, you feel good. One, you look good. Two, you're even helping your body, like you are keeping yourself healthy by exercising. So you are doing something positive, and at the same time, you are gaining dopamine. And that one again is delayed gratification. When you practice delayed gratification, it makes your dopamine system to work for you. You don't end up working for your dopamine system. You don't end up working to please your dopamine system, but instead your dopamine system is now working for you. You get? So instant gratification is just like saying you're taking hard drugs. You are getting dopamine surge so fast, and after a minute or two or three, it has gone down again. That is instant gratification. Then delayed gratification is you control yourself to get difficult things done because you know there's a positive reward at the end of the tunnel. Delayed gratification is very, very good, and it is fundamental to everyone that succeeds in life. For you to succeed in life, you must practice delayed gratification, because anything you're building, anything worthwhile, does not come fast. It takes time to build. So if you're someone that you are seeing yourself just always doing things that satisfies you in the now, you're only about the now, you're not about the now and the future to come. What am I to benefit in the long run? You're only focusing on something that will give you the instant gratification now. You're making a mistake. You are making a very big mistake. You're making a very, very big mistake. You know, another thing you can do to hack your dopamine, you can set goals using milestone. You know, everybody has the goal of I want to be rich, and you can't get rich overnight. Only if you're a herbalist or if you kill somebody or you commit a crime. Only criminals get rich overnight. Anyone that is putting in the work cannot get rich overnight. There are processes you need to follow. There are steps you need to make. Like there are things you need to do. You need to fail. You need to fail again and fail again. And it takes time, because it's from failing that you learn what not to do, what does not work, and you're not like, okay, let me now try something different. That is how you build things. That's how you build systems. You don't build something by thinking you can get it done instantly. Anything you can do instantly that will give you this is most likely you're passing a shortcut, and there's no shortcut to success. So set goals using milestones. When you set goals using milestones, you see yourself getting a rush of dopamine on every milestone you achieve. And that rush of dopamine will motivate you to get the next milestone. And that will motivate you to get the next milestone. Don't just carry the world on your head. I want to get this done, and you don't have milestones. You won't be motivated, because it can't. You won't have dopamine in your system. You won't get the dopamine rush until you achieve the end goal, which can take 2 years. So for 2 years, you will be depressed. They are telling me, no. So set goals using milestones. Set goals using milestones, so that for everything you achieve, you get a rush of dopamine in a healthy manner. And when you're setting goals using milestones, you're indirectly teaching yourself delayed gratification. So it's a win-win. It's a win-win. Another thing you can decide to do is the act of like novelty, experiencing new things, going out to meet new people, going out to like new restaurants that are not too expensive, going out on just to experience new things. Go to the Lekki Conservation Center, LCC. You can go to a virtual reality place to play some VR games. You can go to a cinema. You can just try out new things. Those are positive ways for you to get dopamine surge. I'll talk about the relationship between dopamine and success. There's a deep correlation between successful people always being highly motivated people. You get? Let me say it again. There is a deep correlation between people that are successful on one hand and them having the characteristic of always being highly motivated. They are highly motivated people. You get? There's something about it. You have to be highly motivated for it to become successful. There's no two way about it. Yet it's just something that is an unwritten rule of life. You have to be highly motivated for it to become successful, because success does not come overnight, and you have to fail multiple times. And when you fail, for you to keep going, you have to be motivated. If you don't have that motivation, when you fail, you might give up. But if you're highly motivated, even when you fail, and it's not only when you fail, when you meet challenges in life, when you meet difficulties, when you meet things that, you don't know what to do, aside from seeking the face of God, just praying, you pray over it. God, I don't know what I'm to do now, but I'm just feeling overwhelmed, and I'm calling on you to just please guide my paths, guide my footsteps, give me the grace to keep forging ahead. You pray over it, and maybe you go to bed, you wake up, you see yourself, you continue, you just keep on moving. So you have to be highly motivated for it to be successful. And if you don't have a good dopamine system, you cannot be highly motivated. Yet, if your dopamine system is dependent on some vices for you to feel a surge of dopamine, then I'm sorry to let you know, but you are going to end up hurting yourself in the long run, because you see yourself doing more and more of that negative vice that does not give you value. People that are successful, they don't run marathons. They run sprints, they rest. You need to take breaks. No matter what it is you are doing, you need to take breaks. You need to learn to take breaks, like to pause, to rest. If you set a milestone, like I told you, set your goals using milestones. When you set milestones and you achieve the first milestone, rest. Buy yourself a treat. just relax and reward yourself for achieving that milestone. So I think I've explained a lot on dopamine, and my final statements to everyone out there is basically number one, just pick out one negative high dopamine trigger in your life that is weakening your motivation. We all know we have something we are doing that we need to stop doing. There's something I'm doing, there's something you are doing, that is not healthy but gives you dopamine. It might be doom scrolling on social media, consuming entertainment, it might be watching X-rated videos, it might be, I hope it's not, but it might be doing hard drugs, it might be gambling. There's so many things we do that are negative vices that can give us that rush of dopamine when we think of it, the trigger. Cut off at least one, just pick only one. I know you might have like 100, but pick one for a start. Pick one, cut it off. And at the same time, if you're wise enough, if you're trying to cut off some negative vices, give yourself milestones. Give yourself milestones in cutting off negative vices. Don't just be like, I want to stop this forever. No, give yourself milestones in the sense of, it's one day I haven't done this, I've survived. It's 1 week I haven't done this, I survived. You aim for 2 weeks, you aim for 3 weeks, you aim for 1 month, and all of a sudden after a while you see that, wow, your body is now readjusting to its normal